They were singing Happy Birthday when my husband whispered in my ear, "You're just baggage, and I'm finally ready to unload you." His mistress smirked from across the room. His family laughed. They had no idea what was sitting in the envelope upstairs. The one his dying mother left me. In the next 60 seconds, I went from the woman they threw away to the woman who owned everything they loved. And I'm about to tell you exactly how it happened. My name is Sarah, and this is the story of how my worst birthday became my greatest revenge. Stay with me, because what happened next will make you believe in justice again. Welcome to Reality Stories Hub. While you are here, please hit the subscribe button and comment your view on the story and where you're watching from. You know that feeling when you walk into a room and you just know you don't belong? When every smile feels fake, every conversation feels like a test you're failing, and you're constantly trying to prove you deserve to be there. That was my life for 5 years. And on my 30th birthday, I learned the cruelest lesson of all. Sometimes the people you love the most are just waiting for the right moment to throw you away. My name is Sarah, and this is the story of how my worst day became my greatest victory. Let me take you back to the beginning. 7 years ago, I was living in Seattle, working as a bookstore manager. It wasn't glamorous, but I loved it. I loved recommending books to customers, organizing author events, creating those little displays that made people stop and look. I was happy. Simple, maybe, but happy. Then one rainy afternoon, a man walked into my bookstore. His name was Derek Hamilton. He was wearing an expensive suit, the kind that probably cost more than I made in a month. He spent 2 hours browsing, asked me about poetry, and bought 7 books without even looking at the prices. Before he left, he handed me his business card and asked if I'd have coffee with him. I almost said no. Men like him didn't date women like me. But something in his eyes seemed genuine, so I said yes. 3 months later, I knew I was in love. Derek was charming, attentive, and he made me feel seen in a way I'd never experienced before. He'd show up at the bookstore with my favorite coffee. He'd text me poems in the middle of the day. He told me I was different from anyone he'd ever met, that I made him want to be a better person. 6 months after that coffee date, we got married at a small ceremony overlooking Puget Sound. It felt like magic. It felt like fate. It felt like every romantic story I'd ever read in all those books. But here's the thing about fairy tales. They don't tell you what happens after the wedding. Derek's family owned Hamilton Shipping, one of the biggest freight and logistics companies on the West Coast. His father had built it from nothing, and now it was worth hundreds of millions. Ships, warehouses, contracts with major corporations. The family name was on charity galas and hospital wings. And they hated me from the moment we got married. Derek's father, Richard, barely looked at me at family dinners. His sister, Diane, had this way of smiling at me that made me feel about 2 inches tall. She'd make comments like, "Oh, Sarah, you're so lucky Derek found you. Not everyone gets this kind of opportunity." Or, "We usually summer in France, but I suppose we can explain American customs if you've never traveled." I tried so hard to fit in. I changed the way I dressed, spent money I didn't have on the right clothes. I learned about wine and sailing and all the things they cared about. I smiled through the comments and pretended I didn't hear the whispers at family events. But there was one person who was different. Derek's mother, Margaret. Margaret was elegant, yes, but she was also kind. Real kind. Not the fake kind where people are nice to your face and cruel behind your back. She'd invite me to lunch, just the 2 of us. She'd ask about my life, my childhood, my dreams. She actually listened when I talked. At family dinners, when Diane would make one of her comments, Margaret would change the subject or squeeze my hand under the table. Later, she'd find me and say, "You're exactly what this family needs, Sarah. Don't let them make you forget who you are." I loved her. She felt like the mother I'd lost when I was young. Then Margaret got sick. Ovarian cancer. Stage 4 by the time they caught it. I spent every day I could with her during those final months. I'd read to her, bring her tea, sit beside her bed, and just hold her hand. Derek was too busy with work. Diane visited once a week out of obligation. Richard barely came at all. But I was there, because I loved her, and because she'd been the only one who'd ever made me feel like I truly belonged. The day before she died, Margaret squeezed my hand and whispered, "You're stronger than you know, sweetheart. Don't forget that. No matter what happens, don't forget." I didn't understand what she meant. Not then. She passed away on a Tuesday morning. I held her hand until the very end. And something changed after her funeral. Derek changed. Or maybe he just stopped pretending. He started coming home later and later. He stopped asking about my day. He'd look at his phone during dinner, barely hearing a word I said. When I tried to talk to him about it, he'd say he was stressed about work, that I didn't understand the pressure he was under. Then I started noticing the signs. A different cologne. Text messages he'd hide. Late-night business meetings that never used to happen. Her name was Amber. 26 years old, bright red hair, worked in Hamilton Shipping's marketing department. I saw them together at a company event. The way he touched her arm. The way she laughed at everything he said. The way they looked at each other. I knew. In that moment, standing across the room with a glass of champagne in my hand, wearing a dress I'd bought to make his family approve of me, I knew my marriage was over. But I didn't know how it would end. I didn't know about the cruelty that was coming. I didn't know that Derek was planning something that would break me completely. Or so he thought. My 30th birthday fell on a Saturday in October. I didn't want a party. I told Derek that. I said I'd rather have a quiet dinner, just the two of us, maybe try to reconnect. He insisted on the party. We need to maintain appearances, he said. People expect it. What he meant was, I need witnesses for what I'm about to do. The party was at our house, a beautiful modern home on the waterfront that I'd never felt truly comfortable in. It had too many windows, too much white, too much space. It felt like a showroom, not a home. Derek hired caterers, a bartender, even a pianist. People started arriving around 7. Diane came first, of course, kissing the air near my cheeks. 30, she said with a sympathetic smile. That's such a big milestone, especially for women. Then came Derek's business partners, people from the yacht club, families from the neighborhood. Everyone dressed in their expensive casual clothes, drinking cocktails, talking about vacations and investments. And then Amber walked in. She wore a red dress that hugged every curve. Her hair was styled perfectly. She walked straight up to Derek, kissed him on the cheek, and said loudly enough for people to hear, "Sorry I'm late, babe. Traffic was terrible. Babe. At my birthday party. In my house." I stood there holding a glass of wine, feeling like I might shatter into 1,000 pieces. But I kept smiling. I kept nodding as people wished me happy birthday. I kept pretending I didn't see the looks, the whispers, the pity in some eyes and the amusement in others. They all knew. Everyone in that room knew what was happening, and they'd come to watch. Then Derek pulled me aside into the hallway, away from the crowd, but not far enough that people couldn't see us. He wanted them to see. That was the point. "We need to talk," he said. He smelled different. Probably Amber's perfume on his shirt. "Now?" I asked. "At my party? It's not really your party, Sarah. Let's be honest." Those words hit me like a slap. But he wasn't done. "I want a divorce," he said simply. Just like that. Like he was ordering coffee. "I've already had my lawyer draw up the papers. You can sign them this week, or you can drag this out, but either way, it's over." My heart was pounding so hard I could barely hear him over the sound of my own blood rushing in my ears. "You've had a good run," he continued. "The lifestyle, the house, the travel. But let's not pretend this was ever going to last forever. You were never really part of this world, Sarah. You were always just playing dress-up. Your mother loved me," I whispered. "My mother felt sorry for you. There's a difference." He adjusted his watch, the expensive one Margaret had given him for his last birthday. "Look, I'm not trying to be cruel. You'll get a settlement. Something to help you start over. But this house, the company, the assets? That's family legacy. And you're not family." He looked back toward the party, toward Amber, who was watching us with that little satisfied smile. "You're just baggage," Derek said. "And I'm finally ready to unload." Baggage. That's what 5 years of marriage meant to him. That's what all my trying, all my changing, all my love meant. Nothing. Less than nothing. "I'll give you until Wednesday to pack your things," he continued. "The lawyer will contact you about the settlement. Don't fight this, Sarah. Our legal team is the best in the state. You can't win." Then he actually patted my shoulder. Like I was a pet. Like I was something he was discarding that he felt mildly bad about. He walked back to the party, back to Amber, and I heard him say loudly, crisis handled, "Now let's celebrate." People laughed. Someone turned up the music. The party continued like nothing had happened. I stood in that hallway, unable to move, unable to breathe. 5 years of my life. 5 years of trying to be good enough, trying to earn my place, trying to belong. And this was how it ended. Not in private. Not with respect. But as entertainment for people who'd never liked me anyway. I could see them through the doorway. Derek had his arm around Amber's waist. Diane was talking to a friend, both of them glancing at me. Everyone knew. They'd probably known for weeks that this was coming. I was the only one who hadn't seen it. I turned and walked upstairs. Nobody followed. Nobody cared. In my bedroom, the one I'd been sleeping in alone for the past 2 months while Derek took the guest room, I sat on the edge of the bed and let myself feel it. All of it. The humiliation. The rage. The heartbreak. Not because I loved Derek anymore. I'm not even sure I did by that point. But because I'd believed I belonged somewhere. I'd believed I'd found a home, a family, a place in the world. And it turned out I'd never been anything more than a temporary guest who'd overstayed her welcome. I cried. Not pretty crying, but the kind where you can't catch your breath, where your whole body shakes, where you feel like you might break apart completely. Then I saw it. The envelope on my dresser. It had been delivered a week ago by a man in a suit who said he was Margaret's attorney. I'd been so busy with work and trying to save my dying marriage that I hadn't opened it. I assumed it was something sentimental. Maybe a piece of jewelry. Margaret had always said I should have her pearl necklace someday. But the envelope was thick. Heavy. The kind that holds important papers, not memories. My hands were shaking as I opened it. Inside the envelope were documents. Legal papers, deeds, certificates. And a letter, handwritten in Margaret's elegant script. I started with the letter because I needed to hear her voice, even if it was just words on paper. My dearest Sarah, if you're reading this, I'm gone. And I suspect my son is showing you exactly who he really is. My breath caught. How did she know? I wish I could say I raised him better, but his father's influence was too strong, and I was too tired to fight it anymore. Derek is like Richard. Charming when he wants something, cold when he doesn't. He believes money makes him better than other people. But you, my sweet girl, are everything I hope to find in a daughter. You have kindness in a family that forgot what kindness means. You have strength even when you don't see it in yourself. You made my last years bearable. You sat with me when no one else would. You held my hand when I was scared. So I did what any mother would do. I protected the daughter of my hands were shaking so badly, I almost couldn't keep reading. The documents in this envelope represent 18 months of careful planning. My attorney, James Bradford, has made sure everything is completely legal and unbreakable. Sarah, listen carefully. The following assets are now in your name. The waterfront house you're sitting in right now. I transferred it to you 16 months ago through a private trust. Derek doesn't know. Richard doesn't know. Nobody knows except James and now you. That house is yours. I stopped breathing. Read it again. The house was mine. I also transferred 45% of Hamilton shipping stock to you. Derek has 30%. Diane has 25%. You now control the company. Any major decision requires your approval. I had to read that 3 times before it sank in. The vacation properties in Lake Tahoe in Hawaii? Both in your name. The art collection I spent 40 years building? Yours. It's worth about $30 million. And a personal account containing $8 million for your immediate needs. $8 million. I read it again. $8 million. Derek will be furious. Diane will try to fight this. Richard will hire every lawyer in Seattle. Let them try. James made sure every document is perfect. I was evaluated by 3 different doctors. Everything was witnessed and recorded properly. It's unbreakable. I know you're wondering why I didn't tell you. Because you would have tried to stop me. You would have said it was too much, that you didn't deserve it. That's who you are, sweetheart. You think you're not enough when you're more than all of them combined. You gave me joy when I was dying. You gave me love when my own family couldn't be bothered. You deserve every bit of this. Don't let them make you small. Don't let Derek convince you that you're nothing. You are not baggage. You are not charity. You are Sarah Thompson, and you are magnificent. Show them who you really are. All my love, Margaret. I sat there, Margaret's letter in my hands, tears streaming down my face. But these weren't tears of sadness anymore. I looked at the documents. Property deeds with my name. Stock certificates. Bank statements. Every single thing Margaret wrote was true and legal and real. The house where I'd just been humiliated? Mine. The company Derek was so proud of? I controlled it. The wealth he'd used to make me feel inferior? I had more than he did now. Margaret had given me everything. No. Margaret had revealed what I'd earned through love and loyalty when her own family had given her neither. I pulled out my phone and called the number on the attorney's card. Ms. Thompson, James Bradford answered immediately. Professional, calm. I've been waiting for your call. Is it real? I asked. My voice barely worked. Everything in these papers? Every word. I've been Margaret's attorney for 25 years. This is the most carefully executed estate transfer I've ever handled. Mr. Hamilton has no legal recourse whatsoever. The house, I said. I really own this house? You really own it. The security system, the smart home features, everything. Margaret had me set it up so you could change all the access codes with one phone call. Something cold and clear settled over me. The tears stopped. My hands stopped shaking. James, I said, I need you to do something for me. Anything. Change all the access codes right now. Lock Derek out of his own house. There was a pause. Then I heard typing. Consider it done. As of this moment, only you have access to that property. His keys won't work. His codes won't work. His fingerprint won't work. Perfect, I said. Can you come to the house now? There are some people who need to hear about this from you directly. I'll be there in 15 minutes. I stood up and walked to the bathroom mirror. My makeup was ruined from crying, so I washed my face. I didn't reapply it. I didn't need to hide anymore. I looked at myself in the mirror. Really looked. 4 or 5 years, I'd been trying to be what they wanted. Trying to fit into their world. Trying to earn a place I'd been told I didn't deserve. But Margaret had seen the truth. I'd always deserved it. I'd always been enough. I just needed someone to remind me. I picked up the envelope with all the documents and walked back downstairs. The party was still going. People were dancing now. Amber was sitting on Derek's lap. Diane was holding court by the bar, probably telling everyone how I'd run upstairs in tears. I walked straight into the center of the room and turned off the music. Everyone stopped. Turned. Stared. Sorry to interrupt, I said calmly. But we need to have a family meeting about property rights. Derek stood up, irritation flashing across his face. Amber slid off his lap, looking confused. Sarah, not now. We'll discuss your settlement on Wednesday, like I said. No, I said clearly. We'll discuss it now. We'll discuss who actually owns what. Diane laughed. Actually laughed. Sweetie, you don't own anything. That's the whole point of this. I looked at her for a long moment. This woman who'd spent 5 years making me feel small. Making me feel like I didn't belong. Making me feel like I should be grateful for scraps. Diane, I said pleasantly, you're about to have a very bad evening. I pulled out the property deed. Held it up so everyone could see. This is the deed to this house. The house we're all standing in right now. Notice whose name is on it. I turned it around. That's my name. Sarah Thompson. This house has been in my name for 16 months. Margaret transferred it to me legally and completely. The room went silent. You could have heard a pin drop. Derek's face went pale. That's impossible. Is it? I pulled out another document. This is stock certification for Hamilton Shipping. I own 45% of the company. You own 30%, Derek. Diane owns 25%, which means I control every major decision the company makes. You're lying, Diane said, but her voice was shaking. Mother would never. Your mother did. I pulled out more papers. She also left me the art collection, worth approximately $30 million. The vacation homes in Tahoe and Hawaii, and a personal account with $8 million. The room erupted. People talking over each other. Derek was shaking his head. Amber looked like she wanted to disappear. Diane was yelling something about lawyers. The doorbell rang. That, I said calmly, would be James Bradford. Your mother's attorney. He's brought all the documentation. Every deed, every transfer, every signature. All legal. All witnessed. All completely unbreakable. I walked to the door and let James in. He was a distinguished man in his 60s, carrying a leather briefcase, looking every bit the expensive attorney he was. Good evening, everyone, he said pleasantly. Mr. Hamilton, Ms. Hamilton, I believe we have some matters to discuss. For the next 30 minutes, James explained everything. Every legal detail. Every transfer. Every signature. He showed them the medical evaluations proving Margaret was of sound mind. He showed them the dates, proving everything was done long before Margaret got too sick to make decisions. He was calm, professional, and absolutely devastating. Derek sat down heavily on the couch. His face had gone from pale to red to pale again. This was real. This was actually happening. Diane kept interrupting, threatening lawsuits, claiming fraud, yelling about undue influence. James shut her down every single time with calm legal facts and precedents. Amber just stood there looking lost. This wasn't how tonight was supposed to go. She was supposed to be the victor, and I was supposed to be broken. Richard had arrived partway through James's explanation. Derek must have called him. He stood in the corner, his face like stone, listening to how his dead wife had outsmarted all of them. When James finished, I stepped forward. "So just to be absolutely clear," I said, looking at Derek. "This house is mine. The company requires my approval to function. The art is mine. The vacation homes are mine. And about 30 minutes ago, I had James change all the locks and security codes. Your keys don't work anymore. Your access codes don't work. You can't get in." Derek stared at me like he'd never seen me before. Like I was a stranger. "Here's what happens next," I continued. My voice was steady, clear. I wasn't the crying girl from an hour ago. That girl was gone. Everyone who doesn't live here, which is all of you now, is going to leave. Derek, you can come back on Wednesday between noon and 2 to collect your personal items. Security will be present. "You can't do this," Derek said. But his voice was small. Nothing like the confident man who'd called me baggage. "I already did. Your mother made sure of it." I pulled out Margaret's letter. "She wrote me a letter. Want to know what she said about you, Derek? She said you became just like your father. Cold and cruel. She said she was protecting me because she knew exactly what you'd do. She knew you'd throw me away the second she was gone." Derek flinched like I'd hit him. "Amber," I said, turning to her. She jumped. "You should probably start looking for a new job. The company's getting a complete management review. I'm thinking we need people with actual qualifications, not just people sleeping with executives." Her face went bright red. She grabbed her purse and practically ran for the door. "Diane," I continued, "we'll be discussing your position in the company. I'm thinking something less visible. Maybe you can work in the warehouse. Get a real understanding of the business from the ground up." "We'll fight this," Richard said. His first words, cold and hard. "We'll tie you up in court for years." James cleared his throat. "Mr. Hamilton, I'd strongly advise against that. You'll lose, and it will cost you considerably in legal fees." Margaret's estate planning was impeccable. She made sure of it. One by one, the guests left. Some looked shocked. Some looked uncomfortable. A few looked almost impressed. All of them would be talking about this for months. Years, probably. Finally, it was just Derek, Diane, Richard, James, and me. "I loved your mother," I said to Derek. My voice was soft now. Sad. She was kind to me when no one else was. She saw me when you all looked through me. And all of this isn't about money or houses or companies. I held up Margaret's letter. It's about the fact that she knew what you were going to do. She knew you'd try to destroy me the second she couldn't protect me anymore. And she made sure you couldn't. Derek's eyes were wet. For just a moment, I almost felt sorry for him. Almost. "Get out of my house," I said quietly. And he did. They all did. That was 8 months ago. Derek tried to fight it at first. He hired 3 different law firms. He claimed fraud, undue influence, that Margaret wasn't in her right mind. He lost every single time. James was right. Margaret's planning was perfect, unbreakable. The divorce was finalized last month. Derek got a settlement. Small but fair. More than he deserved, if I'm being honest. He lives in a condo downtown now. I heard he's dating someone new. Good for him, I guess. I hope she has better lawyers than I did. Amber disappeared from Seattle entirely. Last I heard, she's in Los Angeles, working for some tech startup. I don't think about her much. Diane still works at Hamilton Shipping, but her role has changed significantly. She's professional now. Respectful. Funny how respect shows up when you control the company. We'll never be friends, but we have a working relationship. That's enough. Richard retired 6 months ago. His health isn't great, and I think the stress of losing control finally broke something in him. He hasn't spoken to me since that night. I don't expect he ever will. As for me, I'm not the same person I was on my 30th birthday. I used the art collection Margaret left me to open a gallery in downtown Seattle. It's beautiful. Light and warm. Everything the Hamilton house wasn't. I called it the Margaret Bradford Gallery in her honor. We showcase emerging artists, people who are talented but don't have connections or wealth to get their work seen. Last month, a young woman came in. She reminded me of myself years ago. Nervous, unsure, but talented. She showed me her paintings, apologizing for taking my time, convinced they weren't good enough. I bought 3 of them for the gallery's permanent collection. I saw her face when I told her. That moment when someone sees you, really sees you, and tells you that you're enough. That's what Margaret gave me. And I'm spending the rest of my life giving it to others. I still visit Margaret's grave every Sunday. I bring fresh flowers, usually the white roses she loved. I sit beside her headstone and talk to her, tell her about the gallery, about the artists we're helping, about the life she made possible for me. Thank you, I say every time. Thank you for seeing me when I couldn't see myself. Sometimes I think about that night, my 30th birthday, standing in that hallway while Derek called me baggage, feeling like my world was ending. I didn't know then that it was actually beginning. Here's what I learned. When someone treats you like you're worthless, it's not about your worth. It's about their inability to see it. Derek couldn't see me because he never really looked. His family couldn't value me because they only valued things that came from their world, their money, their name. But Margaret looked. She saw a woman who showed up, who loved without conditions, who held her hand when she was dying while her own children were too busy. And she made sure that woman would never be thrown away. I'm not angry anymore. I was for a while. Anger is a natural part of healing. But I'm not angry now. I'm grateful. Grateful for Margaret's love and protection. Grateful for the lesson in my own strength. Grateful for the chance to build something meaningful instead of just trying to fit into something that was never meant for me. The gallery is hosting an event tonight. Young artists showing their work to collectors and critics. I'm wearing a simple black dress, the same one I wore to that birthday party. But I feel completely different in it now. I'm not trying to be anyone but myself. I'm not trying to earn approval or prove I belong. I belong because I say I do. I'm enough because I know I am. As I'm getting ready to leave for the event, my phone rings. It's James. Sarah, he says warmly. I wanted you to know. The final paperwork came through today. Everything is completely settled. No more loose ends. Thank you, James. For everything. Margaret knew exactly what she was doing, he says. She told me once that you were the strongest person she'd ever met, even though you didn't know it yet. She said all you needed was someone to show you what you were capable of. My eyes fill with tears. I miss her. She knew that too. She left you one more thing. He pauses. I was instructed to tell you this after everything was finalized. She said, tell Sarah that she was never baggage. She was always the treasure. Some people are just too blind to see gold when it's right in front of them. I'm crying now, but they're good tears. Healing tears. Thank you for telling me, I managed to say. After we hang up, I look at myself in the mirror one last time. I see a woman who was broken and rebuilt herself stronger. A woman who learned that her value doesn't depend on anyone else's recognition. A woman who turned betrayal into purpose. I see myself. Finally, completely, truly. As I drive to the gallery, I think about everyone out there who feels invisible, who's being told they're not enough, who's trying so hard to belong somewhere that doesn't want them. I want them to know, your worth is not up for debate. It's not dependent on someone else's ability to see it. You are not baggage. You never were. Sometimes the people who are supposed to love us can't or won't. Sometimes we have to wait for the right person to show us what we already are. And sometimes, if we're very lucky, someone loves us enough to make sure we'll be okay even after they're gone. That's what Margaret did for me. And now, through the gallery, through the artists we help, through every person who walks through our doors and feels seen, I'm doing it for others. This is my story. From invisible to unstoppable. From baggage to treasure. And it all started on my 30th birthday, the day I learned that sometimes you have to lose everything to discover what you're really worth. Thank you for listening. Remember, you are not what someone else thinks of you. You are what you know yourself to be. And you are enough. You always were.